Hello and welcome to this product update for September 2024 for Ucommerce Next Gen. My name is Søren and welcome. I'm happy that you're all here with us today so we can show you all the cool things that we've been working on for the past 3 months. We have a bunch of stuff to go through today. We'll start by looking at Ucommerce role in the composable world today. Then we'll get into the product update so I can show you some of the cool new stuff we introduced with the price engine, with extensibility in the back office, and with usability enhancements in the Next Gen platform. And we'll also touch on how to deal with migrations for those of you already on Ucommerce, older versions than Next Gen. We have a bunch of things there that will help you out as you move on to the new version that we're taking a look at today. So here's the agenda. Composable, product update, migrations. It's going to be a lot of fun, so strap in. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in chats. My wonderful colleagues are standing by to answer your questions, so feel free to type away in chat, and if there's something in particular, we will also answer them online here. So, Ucommerce role in the composable world. To understand that, it's important to understand where we're coming from as a industry and where we're heading. So the challenge over the past 20 years in how we built solutions both for e-commerce and other domains was that we used a monolithic approach. So what does that mean? Well, it basically meant that as we were building out more and more advanced solutions, the underlying platforms took in more and more capabilities to support those needs. So one platform would encompass CMS, relevancy, search, e-commerce, a bunch of things. So you ended up with these monoliths that tried to do everything. And turns out that we did succeed for many years to do that, but the challenge became apparent that once you do that, you have to re-platform every 3 to 5 years when the solution gets long in the tooth. The challenge with that, of course, is that as a business, you're standing still while you're re-platforming, and your competition gets a chance to overtake you, basically. So the monolith has worked well for a number of years, but it's time for something new, and that new thing is composable. The idea with composable is to take the monolith of old and split it up into its component pieces. The idea is that rather than have a system that does content management, that does search, that does e-commerce, that does the customer data platform, all that stuff in one, you separate them out into best-of-breed platforms that each have a very clearly defined area of responsibility, as you can see on my slide here. So there's not one platform that has the overall responsibility for everything. Rather, it's a bunch of separate platforms that work together to create the overall whole. The advantage of that is that you can pick the platforms that are the best for you today. What kind of e-commerce platform do you need today? What kind of CMS and all that. So it's a best-of-breed approach today. But it also means that in the future, as your needs change, you can change those platforms to something better without replacing the entire thing. So it's a long-term game on this. And how do you do it? Well, on top of these platforms, the idea is to introduce a set of APIs that are yours as a business. So if you're in fast-moving consumer goods, in selling boats online, whatever, your business is your business, and it tends to be stable over time. And these APIs here at the top reflect your business needs. So they remain pretty constant over long periods of time, whereas the platforms underneath can change, right? The advantage of doing this is that when you invest in all the sales channels that you want to engage with customers on iPads, phones, websites, AI agents, whatever, they leverage your company APIs rather than the underlying platform APIs, and that means that when you change the underlying technologies, the sales channels don't really notice it, so you can continue to capitalize on those investments that you've made in all your sales channels. That's the general idea. So the overall goal is to get away from the re-platforming cycle for every 3 to 5 years and just evolve instead slowly towards where you want to go, so you never have to stop and start over again. I'm sure many of you have tried that, maybe even multiple times. That's the world we built Ucommerce Next Gen to fit into, so we can be a piece of a solution, but we don't try to be the entire thing. So why should you care? Well, Gartner did some research on it, as they want to do, and they found that companies that invest in composable tend to be more nimble, more maneuverable in the marketplace, and you ultimately able to position themselves better with these investments over time. So compared to competition who relies on monolithic approaches of old. So Ucommerce Next Gen was built to fit into this world. We spent 2 years replatforming, rebuilding our entire platform for this world. We call it composable commerce for the .NET developers. But the idea is that Ucommerce fits well within this world. You know, as you can see here, I did put us in as the center of the universe, but the idea is that we're part of the overall picture. So we connect to your content management system. We connect to identity providers to deal with single sign-on. We connect to digital asset management. So we still deliver a lot of the value that we did in the old day, but we do in a new way that means that you ultimately have more flexibility. One example of that is the way we work with a content management system. So Ucommerce was known for living inside of the CMS and being sort of very tightly baked into that. With this new model, we live outside the CMS next to it, but communicate with it. So what that means for us is that you can still leverage the CMS like Umbraco or Sitecore or Sitefinity like before, but because they're loosely coupled, upgrading and maintaining and all that is much easier than it used to be. What it also means is that CMS is optional. You don't have to have one. In many cases, you will have one, but you don't have to. It also means that we can work with any CMS, really. It doesn't have to be one of the three that we've worked with for years. It can be your Contentful or whatever else that you have. We can still leverage it like that. What we're doing with NextGen is to position our platform in a way such that we target low enterprise to sort of upper mid-market. The general idea is that we have seen most success with the customers we work with in that particular space. So as we continue to build out the platform, you will see more and more capabilities that are targeted for that particular customer type. One thing is how we exist in a modern architecture today. Another thing is the capabilities that we bring to the table. And I wanted to just take a few moments to discuss some of what I believe are the key capabilities of Ucommerce. And top among those is the complex requirements that we designed the platform to tackle. So out of the box, we do a lot of very helpful things for those particular scenarios, like multi-channel management. So if you're working with business to business, for example, and you need to sell in multiple markets, or dedicate sales channels to individual business to business customers, you can do that. D2C as well, or international sales in B2C context. Same thing for pricing schemes. As you will see in a little bit as we go through the product update, you will see how we're able to tackle more and more complex capabilities in there. And of course, as always, if Ucommerce doesn't quite fit the bill, you can extend. We'll also touch on that in the product update in a moment. We're composable, so we work with any tech stack, we work with any system, so we can sort of be part of your IT landscape without imposing undue restrictions. And of course, when it comes to building out your sales channels, websites, and all that good stuff, because it's a headless platform, you can leverage any front-end technology. You can have products in an iPhone app, in a JavaScript-based app, wherever it makes sense, in kiosks, things like that. Search is super key and has always been so in e-commerce. And of course, we ship out of the box scalable enterprise search as well, so customers can get to those products really quickly, either by searching out what they need or by faceted navigation within the system. Indeed, whenever a customer is looking at a product in Ucommerce, it is delivered by the search engine at all times. The reason we do that is for performance. You all know how important performance is for e-commerce. Fast page views equals more conversions. And so we just wanted to make sure that every bit of information is delivered like this, so you can sort of expect high performance at all turns on the road. Another key thing that we did with the Next Gen platform was we updated every piece of technology that Ucommerce is based on. So with Next Gen, you basically have the newest Microsoft technology across the board. What it means in practical terms for an e-com manager, for example, is that the experience of dealing with e-commerce within Ucommerce is super fast. You get more stuff done because everything is much faster. What it means for a developer is that .NET developers are using familiar tools to build out these e-commerce experiences. They're using all the known techniques from Microsoft to get stuff done, basically. So it's just much more productive for a developer, which means, less time spent getting to the goal. The last bit is we didn't want to impose any sort of hosting restrictions on how you want to operate your IT infrastructure. So Ucommerce Next Gen is built to work within any cloud that you desire, right? So we don't really dictate which cloud to use. You can use Microsoft Azure, as many of you do. You can use Google, you can use whichever cloud provider you want. Ucommerce will just work. There's a bunch more, but this is the general idea. Composable, complex requirements, particularly those you find in B2B, headless, scalable search, those are the names of the game at the high level. Next up is the actual product update. So when I stood here last, I was in the beginning of June, just before summer holidays, so we rushed around trying to get ready, but we made it, and I was able to stand here and show you 14 new features delivered across 8 releases in a time span from February to the beginning of June, which I'm very proud of. It's a very high cadence of delivering new capabilities to our customers, which is just amazing to see. Today we're looking at 3 months worth of work from beginning of June to August. We've been on summer holidays, so the cadence is a little lower because a lot of people had to go and spend time with families, enjoy the not so much the warm weather in Denmark, but maybe traveling to a warmer place than Denmark. And today we're looking at 5 releases in that time span, so still pretty good, and 12 new features and a bunch of enhancements and bug fixes, again showing that cadence that we've been able to deliver since we replatformed on all this new Microsoft technology. The benefits that you leverage as e-com managers and merchants and partners, we also leverage here as a product company. We're able to get more stuff done faster simply because all the technology is modern and easy to use. Before we get into what all those features entail, I wanted to announce another key capability that we added to the team, and that's Troels Risbrik, who is our new product manager. He joined the team some 3 weeks ago. I know Troels really well. We worked together, way in the beginning, 20 years ago, and he's already putting his sort of touch on upcoming releases. In fact, he and the team planned the next release, which we'll talk about in a few months, just a few days ago. And he brings a lot of experience from the e-commerce field. He's built some of the largest e-com solutions in Denmark, and that experience will benefit you as our partners and customers because he will guide the product roadmap from here on in. Alrighty, so let's actually dig into the product update. When we select the features that go into Next Gen, they fall into key areas of investment. And for this release and the previous one, the first priority is the price engine, particularly with a focus on B2B. So we see, e-com pricing, it's an interesting scenario because a lot of the pricing does not live inside of Ucommerce. It lives in your ERP system or somewhere else. But there is a need to express at least some of those complexities inside the e-com platform simply because we're so much faster at delivering those results than, your run-of-the-mill ERP system. So we wanted to invest in that particular area and in particularly in B2B. The next one is back office extensibility. So why is that important? Well, we found over the years that our ability to ship really good user experiences is great, right? It works well for everybody. But there are these workflows that are some of the most valuable ones that you have as a business, that when we can accommodate those inside of Ucommerce, some real magic starts to happen. And that's why we are focusing on back office extensibility, to be able to have your most valuable workflows live right inside the platform so you can take advantage of them where it makes sense as you're doing those jobs. Thirdly, it's user experience enhancement. This is sort of a category that tackles the standard UIs of Ucommerce. We want to make sure that e-com managers are as efficient as possible. And so with every release, we file a little bit here and there, take off some of the rough edges, and make sure that interactions are much more fluid than the previous release. And finally, developer ergonomics. Ucommerce is a developer platform and has always been so, and continues to be that. And so developers' ability to get stuff done fast in a familiar way is also super important. So we invest in that. Fine-tuning APIs, performance, scenarios that developers will, have to spend time on is something that's super important for us. So we want to make sure that as a .NET developer sits down with Ucommerce, that they get a great experience, and we want to iterate on that release by release. So those are the 4 key areas of investment for previous release and current release. And let's dig into what that means. So the first thing I want to talk about is the price engine. Price engines are interesting, right? Because they fall in all sorts of interesting scenarios. And Ucommerce has always had a really extensible price engine, but with this release, we're really beefing it up and making it super helpful for a bunch of scenarios. And we're doing it with 2 core features. First one is derived price groups, and the second one is contextual price groups. Derived price groups is a pretty simple idea with some pretty big ramifications of what you can do with it. So a derived price group is essentially your ability to set up a price list and then create another price list based off of that, or another. So essentially what you're doing is you're taking let's say pricing for a couple of 100,000 products, and maybe you only have to tweak some of those prices. So to do that, you create a price list, set up all the prices, create another price list derived from that, where you override only the differences that you need. Let's take a look at how that works in practice. So a core scenario for B2B is customer-specific pricing. So as a B2B, you have a bunch of customers, and it is pretty common for those customers to have their own pre-negotiated price deals, right? So account X, Y, and Z will have access to many of the same products, not necessarily all, but they will have different pricing based on the volume and the terms that they have negotiated with you as a B2B merchant. So the way derived price groups work in this particular scenario is such that you create one price list with all your prices for all the products you have. Then you create another price list for trading partner X or account X, in this case, where you modify those prices that need to be modified. Same thing for the next and the next and the next, and you can have a lot of derived price groups in here. So you are able to have a price group per business to business customer. This is also great for loyalty programs. You can sort of see how it would work in a B2C scenario where you may, maybe you have a subscription to a service and that buys you lower prices on things. So silver, gold, platinum, you start with the base price that everybody pays, and then they inherit down until you reach the platinum level. Same idea for B2C. And of course, there's a ton of other scenarios. So let's take a look at what that actually looks like in practice. We introduced a bunch of new UIs and experiences to support this, and this is what it looks like. So this is Ucommerce running with our Condo UI. We will take a look at the settings area here where we introduce these new capabilities. So within that, we have the price app here that I can navigate into and see the price groups that I've set up. I have maybe 1,000 price groups in here, so no biggie. It's just something so we can see how it works. It's data I generated. Now to create the base price group, I go up here and select new. And you'll see here I can create a base price group or a derived price group. So I'll create a base price group. I'll select my currency, and I have a bunch, so I'll just search for the one I want real quick, like that, and we'll call it base USD. Next, tax rate, we're not going to use that. And with that, I've created my new price group up here, and I can navigate to that. Now, the criteria, the idea here is to create then a base set of prices. So I'll start by adding some products to my price list here. And I can search a little bit to find a couple of SKUs. I'll just do 3, but you can add more. And there are also APIs to control all this, so you can import in from an external source. I'm just setting it up to illustrate here. So I'll set a price for my first product, and I'll set one for my second one and the third one. And it's, just product 1, 2, and 3. That's it. So this is their base price. Now I have this chat with my business-to-business partner, and I need to introduce pricing that is particular for that person. So I can go to derived price groups here, And notice there are none at the moment, but I can create a new one right here where I'm working with this. So I don't have to leave the experience. I just stay here and I can then update. So I'll create my account X, for lack of a better word, and we're not using taxes here, so we'll just add that one. Now, what happened here is that as I created this, it's related to the base USD price group, right? So in effect, the 3 products I added before are also priced here, but they remain at the same price as before. So to override that price in some instances or all, I can navigate to my derived price group, navigate to the price list, and I can start to add those products in. So I'll just find my 3 SKUs from before, 1, 2, and 3. In this case, I'm only interested in overriding 2 because that's the only couple of SKUs that I added that I have negotiated prices on, like that. And you can see here the base price, right? So what is the original price? And I can go ahead and say, well, maybe I will provide a 10% discount here. So I can go ahead and add that. And I can go ahead and add it here. The cool thing about this is that now, as account X comes in here and gets pricing, product 1 and 2 will be my special price that I pre-negotiated. And product 3, which is also part of this price set, will have its original price, but it will be transparent when you're sort of starting to request prices and things like that. And that's the power of this, that you can set up these pretty advanced price structures and then, only deal with the bits and bobs of it, which are different. So you don't have to sort of set up like multiple copies of the same price list again and again. So that's derived prices. And of course, I can go ahead and create for my other account. So right now I have one account, and I'll set up account Y as well, like that. And now I have my account X and Y, and I can navigate to that. And of course, I can override a couple of other product prices in this. So I'll search again to find them, and I'm just going to override the third one and the second one, but not the first one in this case. And the idea here again is maybe I'm getting 30% on this one. Oops, that's not 30%. Let me just change that to actual 30%, like that. And this one here, something like that, right? So I navigate back to my price, and you can see my account X and account Y. They are targeting the same products, but they're overriding differently. And that's the gist of it. That's how it works. Cool. Loyalty programs, you can see how that would work. It's the same basic idea, but the use case is a little different. Let's move on to the next scenario here, which is market-specific pricing. So say you have a market that has some similarities, but also some differences, right? So in this case, I'm working with manufacturer suggested retail pricing. That's the default. And then I'm overriding that in different markets, maybe based on buying power or some other parameters that make sense. So the general idea is the same, right? I'll go ahead and set up my base prices, my MSRPs here. I'll go find euros in this case here, like that, and MSRP euro, oh, like that. Taxes, we'll talk about that in a moment. There's a cool thing there that I'm happy to show in a little bit. And, we'll go ahead and create the markets here as well. So we'll do Germany, and a tax rate of 0, and we'll do, let's do France, right? That's a nice place. Here we go, tax rate of 0, and done. Okay, same idea. You now use it for B2C pricing, but it's the same general idea. What you can do it in the states as well. So if you want to do state-based pricing, same basic principle. As you notice, I'm just typing in the names and things. So you can do this by arbitrary market segment. So if you define your markets differently, it doesn't have to be a country. It doesn't have to be a state. It can be like a bunch of states or whatever. You can define your own regions and things like that if you want to, and also further subdivide the price list. So they don't just go in 1, 2 levels. They go 1, 2, 3, 4, down, 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 as far as you need them to go. So that's pricing. I'm sure you'll have a bunch of other interesting scenarios to use for it. It's like a simple but powerful feature that can be used for many different scenarios. I'm just highlighting a few here. One thing that you can also do with it, which I'm pretty excited about, is market-specific taxation. So in the States, for example, you'll have different sales tax in different states, right? 1% for one state, another percentage for the next. And you can actually use the system to support that in a pretty clever way, if I do say so myself. The idea is essentially, let me go to Ucommerce instead here, is to create a new price list. We'll use US dollars again. And we'll use MSRP USD for this one. We'll set a tax rate of 0 because we don't have a great default for that. Now I can go to my base USD here, my MSRP USD, and I can I can add my products from before. So we'll just do, we'll add some products here, and we'll just be real quick about it, add a bunch. The idea with this one is that I add products with US dollar pricing in here. Like that. The pricing doesn't matter much. In this case here, you can sort of imagine how that would be imported from a different system. Good, so we have the products in play. Now the goal here is, rather than overriding prices, we're looking at overriding something different, the tax rate, right? So when I create a new price group here, let's call it Massachusetts, right? And we can set a tax rate of 6. And I can go ahead and create another one for Florida. I'm not sure what the tax rate is. Let's call it 5. And I can create another one for California, 6%. With that, sorry, I got ahead of myself. With that, I have a tax rate here, and I have some products in the base price list down here. They will actually populate down to these price lists, but I'm not overriding any product pricing here. So you'll see no product price overrides here. But what I am overriding is the tax rate, as you can see in the previous view here. So 5, 6, and 6%, which means I'm getting all the standard pricing across all states, but I'm getting different tax rates in particular states. And so we're overriding, parts of the price group instead of the actual prices. It's a pretty simple way to do a simple tax engine inside of Ucommerce. And of course, it works for the EU VAT rules as well. You can go ahead and do the same thing for European countries, where if you have high enough turnover in a particular market, you have to pay VAT in that particular country. So you can model that. So I'm pretty happy about that. It's kind of cool. This is basically, you can override any aspect of the tax of the price group. It doesn't have to just be the tax rate. It can be any dimension on the price group. So there's a lot of interesting scenarios that will start to play out very soon. There's one thing that you can, which is currency. We have to sort of, if you have a price defined here, you can use a different currency lower down in the hierarchy. It wouldn't make sense to have set a price at €1 and then start using Danish kroner, because it would completely redefine what is what. So there is a limitation here, and that's it. Alrighty, I just wanted to make sure I said this out loud. Of course, it can be used for retail prices with an MSRP fallback if you want to. Again, you maintain only the differences. You don't have to worry about, all the products that don't need to be overridden. So basically, you request a price here, and if you don't have a price, Ucommerce will fall back to a default price. So it's a pretty powerful capability. So that's the derived price group capability. It's great for B2B customer pricing, loyalty programs, market-specific pricing, taxation in EU and US, retail fallbacks, and I'm sure you can come up with a ton more of things to use this awesome capability for. I was super excited when I saw it the first time, and I have been really eager to show you guys. I hope you see it and you think this is something that's super cool. But it's only half of the equation, because remember, there were 2 capabilities, and this is just the one. So let's take a look at the other one. We call it contextual pricing. And the idea here is that, one thing is setting up prices and making the price lists available. Another thing is when to actually activate these prices for a customer. And that's what contextual pricing is all about. It is about, based on what the customer sees and does, activate automatically a set of prices. You set it and you forget it. That's the idea. So how does it work? Well, we essentially attach rules to the price groups that you saw before, which will pick them out of the crowd based on the context of the customer. And with this release of Ucommerce, we're shipping one rule and the engine itself. So the one rule we ship is time-based pricing, which is, just a place to get started. What you can do here is you can attach to a price group an interval that this price group should be active for. And then once that's done, it deactivates and disappears from the world. It can be used for a couple of pretty useful scenarios. In B2C, for example, you can prepare seasonal pricing in advance, right? So you can go ahead and prepare your fall pricing during the summer so it's ready to kick in. Or if you turn back to the scenario of B2B customer pre-negotiated prices, you can imagine a scenario where you have a pre-negotiated price deal for a certain set of products in current fiscal year, and then nearing the end of the term for that particular deal, you negotiate a new deal, and you need that to kick in at the end of the original one. So how would that look? Well, it would look a little something like this. So I'll actually go back to the price groups that we had before. So remember my account X and Y, right? So I want to take my account X here, and I want to prepare the next year's price list. So what I can do is I can navigate in here, and I'll just rename this one so it becomes a little more clear what I'm doing. So I'll call this fiscal year 24, and I'll see if I can do an actual parentheses here. There we go. Okay. So I just changed the name, so that's not quite enough, right? I also need to make sure that it kicks in at the appropriate times. This one is active currently, right? So I want to make sure that I add a criteria here, which is time-based. So I'm going to pick the default time-based criterion, and I'm going to activate it. Now, I activate it from today because it is already going, right? And I just, see if I can do it right. Here, there, and we navigate to December like that, and we apply like that, right? So now my account X price list is active until the end of December. That's it. You can see how I can pick a time too if you want to be very specific about it. But for the intents and purposes of what we're doing here, doesn't matter. Now I need to prepare my second price list for this particular account, and of course I go back to my base price group, and I create another derived list here, which will be account X, and it will be fiscal year 25. Sorry about that. No tax rate, and we'll create that. And like before, I'll go in and I'll hit the criteria here, and I'll add a time-based criterion with a period that goes from January instead of September. So it can take over from the fiscal year 24 list, and it'll go to let's just say the end of the year, right? Here we go, done, and that's it, right? So I can go back to the list, and basically I now have those two pre-negotiated price lists for my account, one for the current year and one for the next year. You don't have to be up in the middle of the night as a chump to enable it or anything like that. It just works. It kicks in when you want it to. So it's pretty convenient. And of course, you can do it for all your accounts year over year if you want to. So pretty convenient way to work with it. Now, there's only that one rule out of the box to begin with, but as you can see, we've laid out the foundations to do even more. So you can add multiple rules if you want. So you could have multiple time-based triggers, right? So you can have a price list that activates in January, then skips February and activates again in March if you want to. You can also have different types of rules combined if you want to with these contextual price groups, and of course derived price groups to create those hierarchies of price lists for market specification or business-to-business pricing or whatever makes sense for you. Alrighty, now let's look at back office extensibility. So the idea with that, why we invest in it is a developer-heavy feature, but at the end of the day, it is about bringing your most valuable workflows right inside Ucommerce and placing them where it makes sense, so they're attached to whatever process they're relevant to, right? So if you're doing order processing, that you want that right there with the order, or if you're doing promotional work, you want it right there with the promotion. So this is the idea that we can support those workflows that you want. In the previous update, we shipped customization of all the apps of Ucommerce. So you can hook in custom UI where you want. I can show you real quick here. Basically, the idea was that we wanted to enable the ability to go ahead and add your own capabilities to the apps in Ucommerce. So this is the section area, right, where I've enabled custom UI mode. And it's available everywhere, in the Stores app, in the Catalogs app, in the Products app, everywhere. So you can hook into anywhere with your own custom stuff. And I think I actually do have one if I look at an order. Just a little example of a customization we've done already. So this was the first iteration of back office extensibility. What we're talking about today is something different. In Ucommerce, the way you work with data is called field editors. These little pieces of UI here where you manage a piece of information on a product, on a store, on an order, on many, many places in Ucommerce. And today we're introducing bespoke field editors, so you can basically build your own. You don't have to just work with the ones that we have, although pretty powerful. Sometimes you just need something very specifically you, and that's what you can do with it. You can hook it in many different places. So, for example, in channel management, when you're working with the sales channels within Ucommerce, you can have custom field editors that can go ahead and customize the way that you work with a channel. So I have a little example of that in my backend here. So what I've done is, let me just disable custom UI mode. For now, you only have it as like a support. For now, let me just show you what I did. So this is a store in Ucommerce. There are like 30 set up in this particular solution, and you can have more. But this is actually a custom field. So it's a field that's added to the store. You can add any field you want, but the editor for the organization is custom. So this one here is one, I would say I did it myself, but I had some help from an adult to actually build it. But the idea is that with this, you can go ahead and select a business. So that's not something that comes out of Ucommerce by default. It is a bespoke field editor. The idea here is, with this particular example, that for this store, you can start to select organizations to enable this store for, right? So this store becomes active only for these 3 organizations, but not the other ones, because you can attach business logic to it as well. So this is a little JavaScript component, a web component that's hooked in. It's built in the same way as those other extensions as before. And it enables me to do all sorts of things in here. It could also be a Google map. It could be an editor that connects to an ERP system to bring out some valuable information from that. Anything you can basically imagine. So that's for channel management. It's also activated in our product information management system. So it means you can do the same thing for catalogs, categories, products, and variants. And because it is the same underlying system, it means that this thing I built one time, I can actually go ahead and leverage by default anywhere in the platform. So here it is again. Now I can actually use the same piece of UI on my catalog and say this catalog is only for the Soylent Corporation, for example. I can go ahead and do it on a category as well. The metaphor starts to break down a little bit. I'm not sure why you would want to select an organization on a category, but imagine something else, right? I just wanted to show you, once you build it in one place, you can leverage it everywhere, but you don't have to leverage it everywhere. That's important. And of course, on a product as well, if I navigate to this guy here, same product editor, and it's available on variants as well. So there's a lot of bang for the buck. If you build a field editor, it will kick in many, many different places in the platform. It works in the promotion app as well. And here it's a little more advanced than what we've seen. What we saw so far is basically just an ability to edit a value on a field. Here, it's actually used to create custom promotional rules. And let me show you what that looks like by going to the promotions app. So I have a campaign here set up, good to go. And just for the heck of it, I added the field here as well. It's just because I can. It's not really what I wanted to show you, but it also works here. What I wanted to show you was criterion. So in the last product update, I showed how you could build a criterion, a custom rule essentially, inside of Ucommerce. This buy at most is the one I built. What characterizes this particular rule is that I set it up via rules, and I just leverage the capabilities already inside Ucommerce. So we have a max amount editor here, And we also have a target order line editor, but they ship with Ucommerce. So I just remix them into a new rule. So I can say, you may buy a maximum of 100 of a thing, and it should be on the order line, or it should be on the order. So very little effort to build this thing. Now, where it becomes really cool is that with this particular release, we have enabled bespoke field editors for promotional rules as well. So I can go ahead and select an organization criterion. And you'll notice that this particular guy here, we've seen a bunch of times, right? And here, I think it makes a ton of sense, because for this particular promotional rules, you can now go ahead and say, well, it only triggers if you are in fact logged in and from one of these particular organizations. So build once, leverage everywhere, basically. Good. Let's see where else. Don't worry, we'll conclude this part soon, but it is so cool that we can have it everywhere. I'm very, very excited about that, as you can tell. Now, I want to take you back to where we started in the presentation. Don't worry, I'm not going to say it all one more time. I just want to bring back up the price engine, because it works for that as well. So you saw me doing a time-based criterion, and you know what? We went ahead and just added the ability to do your own rules as well, like in the promotion engine. And so let me show you what that looks like. So we go back to the price list that we spent a wee bit of time in. And you know what? What's interesting here is, remember when I did my account X and Y? Let me just search them out for you so they're a little easier to see, right? So we did that pricing, right? So we said this set of prices should be active for fiscal year 24, and this other set for fiscal year 25. Great. What we didn't say, though, is whose account X. But I think you can see where I'm going with this, probably. If I go into this and I go to the criterion, I can add another one. And I just took the liberty of hooking in, someone we've seen before, the organization criteria. And we did actually build it particularly for this scenario. So now, right, I've selected three let's just go with one, right? Because it is for one. So imagine this is account X. Right now we have contextual pricing, not just on time, but also on the organization in question. And as you can tell, I've combined my rules. So I have an organizational rule, which is fully custom, the editor, everything custom, and I have a standard one. But in this area here, you can also use the default field editors that we ship out of the box, like I could in the promotional engine. So that is super cool. That is something I'm super excited about. I really look forward to see what you do with this, because there's so much power here. All righty. Whoop, I got a little ahead of myself. While we were at it, we figured, well, why not enable definitions and the ability to add fields to shipping methods as well? So, and by extension, we get bespoke fields free of charge, right? So you can now go ahead and create definitions for shipping methods and attach your own fields. Why? Well, you can use it for shipping rules management, where you can start to do weight-based volumes, tiers, zones, whatever you can imagine, attach it to a shipping method and make it available based on those criterion that you build yourself. So that's kind of a cool thing. We actually discovered, as a little bit of internal baseball, that definition enabling things that don't have them is not a big job for us. So you're going to start to see more of this on various other things as well. But it's kind of cool. You can go ahead and add, stuff to your shipping methods. I don't want to bother you with actually going to a shipping method and showing you that organizational thing, but I did plug it in there as well, just to make sure I could. So that's the bespoke field editors. They work everywhere in the platform where definitions are enabled, which is, as you can tell, in many different places. So we started by looking at channel management, where we enabled that organizational field, so you can start to attach a store to an organization. I showed you in product information management how catalogs, categories, products, and variants also support this capability. Promotional rules, you can do promotional rules custom with our built-in editors, so you don't have to do a lot of work to create a custom one. And you can build custom UI to support it as well. Same thing for our new contextual price rules in the price engine. Same basic idea, custom rules with default field editors, as well as fully custom field editors, so you can build any experience you want. Shipping rules management, and I didn't talk about this too much, but payment rules management and configuration also included in this. I don't want to bore you with showing what a payment method looks like, but you get the gist of it. So that is bespoke fields and the price engine update. Let's take a look at some back office usability enhancements. So in e-commerce, there is a particular way of working with things, and we've optimized for that, and that's lists, right? You tend to, in e-commerce, not to work with just one thing, but in fact, many things at one time. You saw me sort of blowing back and forth between lists of things. So we went ahead and enhanced the way we do that. So in particular, we have a new way of working with lists, which enables searching, sorting, filtering your own list like a saved one, and it's much faster than before. And in fact, I've already shown you, but I'm going to show you again just to make sure that I make my point. So when we were working with prices, we were in fact working in the new grid, which is this thing here. The first thing, I'm going to start bottom and then work my way up, is performance of this thing. As Ucommerce has grown, we're able to deal with more and more information. This particular solution, I have 500,000 products set up, and I didn't want to go too nuts with price groups, so I only have a few thousand in here, but you can have more, which means that these lists are super important for the perceived performance of the platform. So we went ahead and introduced the ability to page through, and as you can see, it is super snappy. So it deals with large quantities of data really well. It also enables you to sort, so you can find whatever you want. These are basic things, right? It enables you to also filter within what you're looking at here. So you can go ahead and say, well, I want something that says group in the middle, and you know what, they all do. So it's kind of dumb. But it means that you can sort of find things that contains, starts with, and you can do ands and ors in here as well. And there are more things to come. And the last party trick, and probably the most important one, is search, right? So you saw me using it very naturally to just basically find the stuff I've been editing. And this is present everywhere, right? So as these lists grow, the search becomes more and more important. And so if I go to my base US dollar, you'll see that in my derived price groups, if you go nuts with them, right, and have lots of derived price groups, search is available. Same thing for price list. And basically what we're doing is, as we build out this list, we are going to introduce it in more and more places in Ucommerce. So you'll have the benefit of it everywhere once we're done. But for now, it is in various different places. So you can work with the data much more fluidly and faster. Okie dokie. That's the update, right? A few usability enhancements, price engine, and bespoke field editors. Last thing I want to talk to you about today is migrations. So it's been 15 years since I founded this company. And, that's a long time to be in business. And it's a lot of customers to work with. So we have had the pleasure of working with many, many customers across continents and countries and all sorts of things, which means we have a large customer base now. And so migrations are super important. Most of you will not be on Next Gen yet. So it's important for us to support you in that process via tools, services, and processes. The idea is to make the transition from older versions of Ucommerce to Next Gen as seamless, as easy as possible. First thing is we shipped Ucommerce Next Gen with an automated commerce data migration tool. The idea there is that regardless of which version of Ucommerce you're on, with the flick of a button, we can take your data and migrate it to Next Gen automatically. So it does not require any effort other than flicking that button. That means all your carts, orders, catalogs, every data you have inside Ucommerce gets moved from the old platform into the new, so you're ready to start the migration. Next up is migration best practices. So what it does is it's basically something that outlines, how you did things in the old system and how do you do it in the new, to make it easier to understand what needs to happen to go from A to B. Training as well, Next Gen masterclasses. So we updated our masterclass so developers can get up to speed with the new platform and all the new capabilities, all the latest Microsoft tech, and then comfortably build a new solution on our composable headless platform. It's free of charge. We will come to you, we will train you, and it will not cost you anything to get this training. So I do encourage you to ask about it if you're interested. Spend a little bit of time, a couple of days, a day, get up to speed, and the experience of migrating will be so much better. Last thing, and I'm very proud about this, is the hypercare. So once you get into the migration, all this is before, right? Once you get into the migration, there will be questions, there will be a need for help. And so we introduce hypercare for you. Basically, it is support from our product team and our solutions team, direct communication between the team doing the migration on your end and our guys here on our end. We do it via instant messaging and things like that. So it means that there's a very fast turnaround time on questions and answers, which will sort of streamline the migration process a great deal. The goal of all this, of course, is to reduce the cost and time needed and hit the mark more securely than otherwise. We continue to build out more, but these are the categories that we support you in right now. So if you are thinking about a migration, do be aware of these tools, and do be aware that we are here to help you out. If you think you want to move to Next Gen, and I definitely encourage you to do so, it is an awesome platform, and it only continues to be more and more awesome month over month. Get in touch with me, right? Write me at ssl@ucommerce.net. If you have questions, anything like that, do that. And I will also encourage you to, based on what you see here today, to let us know what you think. Does it look like? What does it look like to you? Is it as awesome as I'm saying? Are we hitting the mark? It would be so great to hear from you what you think about these releases. So feel free to do that. And with that, I want to thank you for all being here. It's such a pleasure that you take your time out of the day and spend it here with me. So thank you for that. And I hope to see you in the next product update.